My name is James and I live in the Central Valley in California. I am a fisherman and I cherish those serene moments by the water, occasionally going on solo fishing expeditions when my friends or wife weren't available to join me. It was back in 2007 when I went on one such solitary fishing trip to a lake nestled an hour away from my town, settled amidst the majestic mountains. I was fishing alone, and after an entire night spent casting lines and patiently waiting for a bite, the scorching sun had taken its toll on me. Exhaustion weighed heavily on my weary body, and I decided to head back home. As I embarked on the journey back home, my thoughts drifted towards my family eagerly awaiting my return. I couldn't help but anticipate the delight on my wife's face when she saw the fresh catch and imagined how I would skillfully cook the fish to her liking. It was well past midnight, and the only companion accompanying me was the eerie hum of the engine. As I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turned white against the darkness enveloping the desolate highway. The glow of the dashboard lights cast haunting shadows across my face, and raindrops splattered against the windshield, distorting my view of the road ahead. The wipers swished back and forth, futilely attempting to clear the constant barrage of water. Each swipe only revealed fleeting glimpses of the deserted stretch ahead, intensifying the feeling of isolation that engulfed me. I navigated through the winding turns, and an unnerving sensation crept over me. It was as if unseen eyes were watching, lurking in the darkness just beyond the reach of my headlights. The familiar landmarks and signs seemed distorted, almost surreal, sending shivers down my spine. I tried to shake off this chill feelings, attributing it to fatigue or my overactive imagination. But then a figure appeared in the distance. A hitchhiker, alone in the dark and drenched in rain, stood at the side of the road, thumb raised hopefully. Against my better judgment, I felt an inexplicable urge to help her. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowed down and cautiously pulled over. The passenger door creaked open, and the stranger climbed in, water dripping from her saturated clothes. She muttered her thanks, her voice a barely audible whisper. A chill ran down my spine as I noticed her unnaturally pale complexion and vacant eyes. My hands trembled, but I suppressed my unease and forced a nervous smile. We engaged in conversation for a while, and she shared her story of how her car had broken down 2 miles west of where I had picked her up. She had been disoriented and had aimlessly roamed the roads for hours, feeling a growing sense of despair as the night threatened to overpower her chances of finding help. That was until I happened to come along and decided to stop and offer assistance. "Stacy, that's my name," she said with a low, soft voice. Its echo lingered faintly in my memory from that night when she shared it with me. As we resumed our journey, an unnerving silence enveloped the car. Stacy's presence seemed to permeate the air with an otherworldly energy, and uncomfortable glances were exchanged from the rearview mirror, but no words were spoken. The sound of raindrops pelting against the roof echoed through the cabin, creating an eerie symphony of dread. Suddenly, an inexplicable sensation swept through me as the stranger's head abruptly snapped towards me, her eyes now brimming with a sinister glow. Panic tightened its grip on my racing heart as her voice transformed into a bone-chilling hiss.
"You can stop here.
She whispered, venom dripping from her words.
I have a relative down the road."
Down the road? What does she mean by that? I thought to myself, my mind racing with bafflingly thoughts. We were in the midst of nowhere, surrounded by barren landscapes with no signs of civilization for miles. Not a single house had passed by in what felt like an eternity. My eyes darted around, searching for any clue of habitation, when a shock of terror pierced my soul. A weathered balloon was tethered to a small ancient cross, swaying ominously next to a patch of withered yellow grasses by the roadside. No nearby turns or signs of life could explain its presence. I glanced back at her, the stranger Stacy, my confusion etched across my face. With her unblinking gaze fixed upon me, she whispered, "Yes, here is correct." The words hung in the air, sending shivers down my spine, as I hesitantly agreed, my voice trembling. I unlocked the car door, granting her exit from the vehicle. As Stacy stepped out, a chill wind swept through the desolate landscape, carrying with it an eerie silence. But before she closed the door, she turned back towards me, her face contorting into a sinister grin. Lowering her head to the window's height, she asked me a question in a voice laced with terror-inducing malice. "Was my husband walking on the same road by chance when you were driving here? My baby and I are hungry, and she needs to eat. I cannot find him anymore." A sense of dread consumed me as I gazed upon her. And then my eyes widened in pure terror as I realized what I had missed all along. Nestled between Stacy's arms, concealed from view, was a baby. A baby I had failed to notice until that very moment. A wailing baby cry pierced the air, hungry and desperate, as if the child's existence had manifested itself in that terrifying instant. The horrors of the situation crashed upon me like a tidal wave, overwhelming my senses. Fear surged through my veins as I stomped on the accelerator, desperate to escape the clutches of this unholy encounter. But the car seemed to be moving in slow motion, as if held back by an invisible force. The engine growled in protest, struggling against an unseen presence. With each passing second, the stranger's appearance distorted, her face contorting into a grotesque mask of horror from the mirrors of my car. As the nightmare played out before my eyes, I realized I had unwittingly stumbled upon something beyond comprehension. A supernatural force had found its way into my world, feeding on my fear, my vulnerability. The highway of the lakes, once a symbol of freedom and escape, had transformed into a twisted labyrinth of terror. I arrived home in a flurry, unable to contain the terror that consumed me, and woke my slumbering wife with a sense of urgency. Both of us being deeply religious, she immediately reached for the phone and dialed my father-in-law, a revered shaman, even though it was the dead of night. Trembling, she relayed the chilling encounter we had experienced. My father-in-law, calm and wise, assured us not to fear, reminding us that I had made it home unharmed. He promised to investigate the matter and arrive at our house first thing in the morning, armed with his spiritual expertise. His plan was to tie a red string around my wrist, a powerful talisman to ward off the malevolent spirits that had crossed our path. I was consumed by fear that night and sleep eluded me entirely. I tossed and turned, tormented by haunting thoughts of the sinister lady and her ghostly gaze. Every glance toward the bedroom's window seemed to unveil her presence, her haunting face etched into my consciousness. The barking of dogs outside pierced the silence, and when their clamor ceased, I swear I could hear the anguished cries of a hungry infant echoing through the night. The next day my father-in-law arrived as promised, his demeanor both solemn and resolute. He performed a ritual, carefully tying the vibrant red string around my wrist. He assured me that as long as I did not venture back onto that accursed road, I would be safe. However, if I needed to, he cautioned that an entire year must pass before I could brave that same stretch of highway. As he completed the ritual, my father-in-law shared a chilling revelation. He revealed that the lady I had encountered was a younger woman from his own days, a tragic victim of murder on that very road. She had met her untimely demise at the precise spot where she appeared to me, cradling her 6-month-old baby in her arms. He insisted that my encounter with her was a stroke of fortune, a warning from the otherworldly realm. Yet despite his words, doubt lingered in the depths of my soul. This bone-chilling incident had scarred me to the core, leaving an indelible mark on my psyche. Though I continued to reside in the area, I could never summon the courage to venture near that forsaken stretch of road again. The memory of that encounter still haunts my every waking moment. I am content to live out my days in this community, yet the thought of traversing that same haunted highway remains an unthinkable prospect. The dark secrets of that desolate road shall forever lie dormant, buried beneath layers of fear and trepidation.